Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we will finally complete designing the entire functionality for our calculator application. So the first thing which we need to learn is that we need to handle the arithmetic buttons over here in our calculator application. So we basically want to go ahead and create another function for them. So I'll go right over here and we will define a new function, and that function is actually going to be called as, let's say, get operation. So what this actually is going to do is that it's going to accept an operator, and once we have this operator over here, what we will do is that we are actually going to do the same thing as we have done with this variables over here. So we will type in global I, declaring the variable I as global, and then we will basically go ahead and we will get the length of the operator, because as you could notice from here, when we dealt with the variables were actually 1 to 3 and those digits till 9. So those digits actually had a single length, that is, they had the length equal to 1. But in case of some operators, as you could see, as this pi operator or this exponential operator, these operators actually are not having a length equal to 1. Some of them have length 1, 2, and some of them have the length equal to 3. So it's actually important to get their length. So we'll create a length variable over here. So length is going to be len, and we basically want to calculate the length of the operator. And then finally we will add it to the display. So we'll type in display.insert, and that's going to be I, comma, operator. And now instead of incrementing the value of I by 1, we want to increment it by the length of the operator, which is nothing but length over here. So as you could see, these two functions are quite similar, but the only difference here is that we actually want to increment the value of I by 1 over here, and here instead of using I over here, as the length of the operator is not equal to 1, we pass in the actual length. Okay, so once this thing is done, we should be able to insert operators on our calculator. So the only thing which you need to do is that you need to pass in lambdas to each of those operators. So over here, this is actually equal to sign, and we want to design a separate functionality for that. But for now, let's go ahead and add those commands over here. So that's going to be command equal lambda, and that's actually going to be get operation. And here we are going to pass in the individual values for those operations. So that's actually going to be plus over here, and what I'll do here is that I'll simply copy the entire code and I'm going to paste them for each and every operator over here. So that's actually going to take me a little bit of time, and once we are done adding that, we will be basically good to go. So let me just quickly add it up over here, here, and I guess we do need here as well. So here, and here. Okay, so I just now need to replace these things with let's say minus, this one with the multiplication sign, this one with the division sign, and the pi actually has to be replaced with let's say multiplied by 3.14, because that's what actually pi means. And this percentage needs to be replaced with a percent sign. This bracket needs to be replaced with a bracket, which is an opening bracket, this plus, and this needs to be replaced with double multiplication sign, because that's what we use for calculating the exponent in Python. And then finally for this one, and I guess we will design the functionality for factorial in some other lecture, or you could also do it as your homework. So for factorial, I'm going to leave it blank, so you have to do it on your own as your homework. This is actually going to be the closing bracket, and finally for the square we will type in $2. Okay, so once this thing is done, I guess everything should work fine. So we'll actually go ahead and test out this application. So I will save the code, run the app, and let's see if we could perform some arithmetic. So 1 plus 2, okay, this looks fine, minus 2 multiplied by 3, pi, percentage, exponent, square, and the brackets are working as well. So that means everything is working fine. The division is working fine, and everything is working fine. So that means now we are actually able to go ahead and type in all these operations over here, except the factorial, because we have not yet designed the functionality for that. Okay, so once this thing is done, we will actually go ahead and we will now figure out how to calculate the result of any expression. So if you type an expression like 1 plus 8, so when you hit this equal to sign, this expression should actually be evaluated and the result should actually be present over here. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that. So for that, what we will do is that we will create a new function. So let's say that's going to be calculate. That's the function name. And this function is actually not going to accept anything, but what it's actually going to do is that it's actually going to go ahead and it's going to get the text from the entire display. So again, we will use the entire string over here. So entire string is going to be display.get. It's actually going to get the display from here. And here what we will do is that we will write this inside a try block. So that's going to be try. And let's say we take the entire expression in a variable a. So a is actually going to be equal to, and if you recall, we have imported the parser over here. So parser is actually going to accept the entire expression and it's actually going to compile the entire expression. So we will type in parser.expr, which is expression, and here you need to pass in the entire string, which is entire string, and then you actually need to go ahead and compile the entire string. So that's going to be compile over here, and I guess we do have a typo over here. This should be string and this should be string as well. Okay, so once we are done with this, the final thing which we want to do is that we want to go ahead and extract the result. So we'll type in result equals, and that's going to be the eval function. So what this eval function actually does is that it's going to evaluate the entire expression. So once this expression is actually compiled, you actually want to pass this expression over here. So the expression is stored in the variable a and you simply pass it over here. So once you have the result, you actually want to display that result in the input field, but the input field actually contains the expressions. So you first need to clear everything, and then finally you need to display the entire result starting from position 0. So we'll type in display.insert from position 0 and display result over here. So once that thing is done, you're basically good to go. Now the only thing which you need to do is that you need to handle the exception. So except exception, and that's actually going to be clear all, and you simply display a result. So display.insert, that's going to be 0, let's say error. This should actually be 0, not O. And once this thing is done, we are basically good to go. So let's actually go ahead and learn what we have done here. The first thing which we did is that we got the entire string, which is nothing but the expression typed onto the display. So we typed in display.get equals this thing, and now the entire expression is stored in the entire string. Now we basically pass the entire string to the parser so that the parser is actually going to compile it, and once we have the compiled thing stored in the variable a, we want to evaluate the entire string. So we will pass in the string over here. So we have passed in a over here. That's going to evaluate the thing and store the result in the result variable. Then to display the result, we have first cleared the screen and we have displayed the result over here, and this except block is going to accept any kind of exception if in case exception occurs. So once we are done with this, let's finally save the code and test our app for the final time. So I'm going to bring up our calculator over here. So let's say 1 plus 2. Let's see the output. Okay, so we actually forgot to add this function to the equal to sign. So what we need to do here is that we need to go to the equal to button, which is this button right over here. Give a command. So command is going to be equal to lambda, and that's going to be equal to calculate. Okay, so after doing this, I guess our application should work fine. So I'm again going to run this, and now let's try to calculate 1 plus 2 equals 3, minus 1 is going to be 2, divided by 2 is going to be 1, multiplied by 9 is going to be this. So these buttons are actually working. Now let's calculate the pi of this number. So we obviously have the pi. So if we calculate the percentage, we also have the percentage. If we calculate the exponent, we also have the exponent. Now if we calculate the square, we also have a square. And you could also delete this anytime or clear this every time. So the only functionality which is left is for this particular factorial button, and this thing is your homework. You just basically go ahead and try to build the functionality for this factorial button, and if it does not work, then I am ready to provide you with a solution. But you have to actually go ahead and basically attempt the solution on your own so that you will be able to get confidence that you were actually able to build a functionality for this app. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.